call the June 27th Economic Development Committee meeting to order. And it looks like we are missing Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
I move to excuse. Oh, here he is.
Oh, there he is. All right. The first order of business is to approve the April 25th, 2024 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Minutes are approved. Next item of business is comprehensive plan update, capital facilities, utilities, and public services, parks, recreation, and open spaces element. And the staff will provide an overview of Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 of the Des Moines Comprehensive Plan, along with proposed amendments for discussion and input.
Thank you. Laura Chico, I'm Planning and Development Services Manager, and I have Wayne Carlson here with AHBL, who's been our consultant on this and some other work that we'll discuss here tonight. So I've got some slides that most people have seen already, but we will kind of go through and, just for continuity, use some of the same ones. So for background, the comprehensive plan is the plan and framework that the city uses to determine how we manage growth and provide services and facilities with a 20-year planning horizon. And that is to accommodate our growth targets for housing and jobs. So over the last several months, we've been bringing one or chunks of chapters to various committees to talk about some of the changes. Economic Development Committee, we've brought the introduction in land use, the Economic Development, North Central, Marina, Pacific Ridge elements. We've brought the first draft of Conservation and Environment to the Environment Committee, and then an update on the transportation element to the Transportation Committee. That's something that we're going to be hiring a consultant for to help us with that work. So tonight, these are some of the more straightforward chapters in terms of updates: the capital facilities, utilities, and public service chapter, and the parks, recreation, and open space chapter. Let's see. So chapter 5, capital facilities, utilities, and public services element. There's really long names I'm going to trip over here, but so this chapter helps us determine the right facilities and services are provided in the right places to accommodate development and growth, and a lot of that we've talked through. That's part of the land use element. Capital facilities being city admin buildings, libraries, parks, and schools. Utilities such as electricity, telecom, water, sewer, and services such as police and fire. And so the goals of this chapter are to support new development, address system deficiencies, and maintain level of service. So this chapter, and then it starts on page 6 of your packet. There's, in the beginning, some less substantive changes. The bulk of this one, starting on page 8, is adopting by reference the various plans that the different service providers have. So we're still in the process of reaching out to some of those entities to determine their latest versions. For example, there's a 2019 Comprehensive Water Systems Plan for the King County Water District 54 that we need to update that to. And there's a couple Southwest Suburban Sewer District. They're in the process of updating their latest plans. So we're working with each of these entities to update those. Let's see what other. And then there's some basic updates to the goals and policies in this chapter. In terms of language, there's an update at the end here regarding, let's see, page 18. Originally, there'd been language about a House bill. That's been updated to where that's been codified now for provisions for electric vehicles. I don't know if there's any other details you have on that, Wayne.
No, the only thing I would kind of just add is that the capital facilities element land use and transportation, those kind of three probably are the core under GMA of the important elements that really work together, and housing as well. And, the key issues with respect to capital facilities, utilities, and public services is that urban level services be provided concurrent with development, so that you're meeting those level of service standards that you adopt as a community. And so, and that was a provision in the earliest iterations of the Growth Management Act back in 1990. And so so that's probably why you don't see a lot of kind of new policies and revisions to the policies related to, because it's kind of a fundamental kind of cornerstone of GMA that these services be provided. And so there's a fair bit of coordination that Laura was talking about, since so many of the services are provided by others, but where we provide them, the city's, proposed land use maps or any kind of changes, so that they can ensure that they are providing the services that the residents of Des Moines, expect, and that are also required under GMA.
I do have a question. So you're talking about services like utilities and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So has there been any discussion about how, if let's just say Big Catch Plaza or something on the end of town, decides that we're going to build a 200-unit apartment complex, is there any discussion about how Water District 54 would be unable to service that kind of growth in the downtown?
Plan specific, Dr. Sherbert, when we look at zoning changes and height of buildings and densities, there is the expectation that the utilities provide that level of service that's going to meet those zoning changes. There would have been discussion at the time of the downtown commercial district and any changes to that.
Right.
What's going to be coming up is middle housing bill, House Bill 1110. Because these plans have been based on, like you said, we've been providing them with the land use maps and growth targets, but this bill is going to change kind of where and what density looks like and where development's going to occur in different patterns than it was. And so while this is a fairly straightforward one, we're going to be probably revisiting this chapter with that new work to address it. But
Yeah, I think there will be some minor, potentially minor changes. I guess with respect to those utilities and what you were speaking about, Councilmember Nutting, is that at the plan level, the concern and the coordination that we do is to make sure that, for instance, for say sanitary sewer, that there's adequate capacity at the sewage treatment plant. There still could be conveyance issues where a storm sewer needs to be made larger because it simply doesn't have adequate capacity to convey the sewage to the plant, or that where there might be a need for say a pump station or lift station. But kind of the bigger issues of whether they have the treatment capacity to support say 200 units, that stuff all needs to be kind of figured out at the comprehensive plan stage. But there could be improvements to the infrastructure, say the conveyance that is necessary to support that development. Yes.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Thank you. Yeah, just kind of to follow up, and this is kind of what I was thinking before, is what I'm hearing is at a planning level, if there's going to be greater density, then you have to see if there's the treatment capacity. But there's going to be a conveyance issue, presumably. That many more people are going to require that much more conveyance, meaning the pipes that for your example, the sewer treatment. What ability do we have to force, and maybe force is not the right word, but compel, work with, cajole, whatever it needs, the utility to upgrade their capacity to where we want to create more density, and who bears that cost in the big picture? And I'm not sure it's, I mean, it's implicated by the growth management plan, but I don't know that it's directly addressed, is it?
You know, it tends to be a, you know, it's oftentimes a kind of a shared responsibility. Whereas if the comprehensive plan is, you know, proposing, you know, a significant increase in the amount of density, then those projects, if there's kind of a known conveyance issue, those projects get listed on the capital facilities plan for those utilities. And there's a kind of a timing associated with that. If that timing, you know, vis-a-vis the funding that these utilities have is kind of inconsistent with the timing of development, then, you know, a developer can, you know, elect to, you know, upgrade those facilities themselves. But that obviously comes at a large cost. But no, the way that GMA is supposed, you know, is intended to work is that the facilities are provided concurrent with the growth. And so there is a you know, kind of a responsibility and kind of a, there's a reciprocity or just a kind of a discussion that occurs between the utilities and the city to, you know, kind of right-size the growth. And if for instance, you know, I guess if the growth that is being proposed, you know, significantly outstrips the ability of the utility to provide service, and then there needs to be kind of a discussion, and that's why it's kind of an iterative process, as Laura was saying, where we provide them the maps and the growth projections, and you know, and they're looking to you know, serve the community. So it's a process of kind of planning with them, and like Laura was saying, they're working on their own plans as well.
If I can just follow up. And what if the priorities don't align? You know, the sewage system wants to prioritize this area, but the city wants to prioritize this area. Is there a resolution for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. You know, my experience with a lot of say the you know, the water and sewer utilities, maybe more sewer than water, is that they are looking to provide as much service as you know, kind of absolutely possible. You know, almost as if they're building a, you know, kind of a fiefdom. Water is a little more complicated, just because, you know, sometimes there's water rights issues where you can kind of that the utility may not. But here I haven't heard any of those kind of issues or concerns with some of the initial coordination that has occurred. Yeah, but those are good questions. Yes.
Mayor Buxton.
So there are concerns, though. There are concerns. There's capacity issues on both sides, you know, both with water and with sewer. You know, the Midway Sewer has had some pretty catastrophic events happening that have happened just over the last couple of years. And so it does breed concern. I remember when we reviewed the comprehensive plan for Midway Sewer probably about 4 years ago, one of their main goals is to get every residential property in the city of Des Moines on sewer by 2035. Well, but the GMA requires and HB 1110 requires so much more density. That's to just add that capacity of getting every residential home on that exists, but we're trying to grow by like another third or something on the same footprint. So I do wonder about that, and what I'm wondering is if it means, you know, you gotta take the other electeds out for drinks or something. I
Right.
mean, I think it begins somewhere, because they're separate districts with their own electeds, and so, kind of a segue.
Are you talking about conveyance or treatment or both?
Both, I'm talking
yeah.
about both. There are issues with all of the above. I mean, even, you know, Highline has continued to move closer and closer to downtown Des Moines just over the last 10 years. I think, 80% of the water that we have now is purchased from Highline, and that just comes from Lake Young's. I mean, it just keeps coming this way, right? Okay, so that's kind of a segue to one of my asks or comments. I think it's on my first comment, page 8. It talks about plan adoption, and I might just, unless I'm missing something, recommend plan adoption and review. Several of these plans, we don't adopt them, we're just presented with them. Like I said, in these committees, and Midway comes, or Water District 54 comes, or Lake Haven comes, and they present the plan, but that doesn't, there's nothing, we have no authority to adopt their plan for them. We just review it and give them feedback, but we don't, I'm a little hesitant to say in this document that we have adopted these plans. They have an obligation to present them to us, but if there's something about it that we don't like even a little bit, this conversation, we don't really have authority over those plans. Like all of everything from Water District 54 down. So King County Solid Waste, Highline, Lake Haven, Midway, Southwest, Lake Haven, Highline Public Schools, Federal Way Public Schools, all of those. So you do have another segment below that talks about, well, that comes up next. So anyway, that's my question / recommendation about that segment.
That to be the segment,
That-
plan adoption and review.
Yeah, plan adoption and review, or review, plan or adoption or review. And then, my page 4, we don't adopt all of these. And then, on page 9, you do have kind of a place there, and even a question, I think it was, other plans which are not formally adopted by the city but relate to the provision of capital facilities and related services. Maybe you could put reviewed plans in that section. All those plans that I just talked about that we don't really adopt. That might be a better place for them. Oh, I think there was a question here about, well, should we just create another category, or you could just create a category called reviewed plans. Anyway, that's up to you guys.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing where you're referring to
Uh,
here.
Page 8, now I'm on page 9.
I have page 9 of the draft
I
June
think you're
12th,
talking about the
2022.
there's the packet.
Packet,
numbering,
okay.
and so page 3 and 4 of the document itself. So
Oh, thank you,
I don't
Laura.
see packet numbers on yours, so I think.
I'm operating out of my packet.
I have the hard copy that was here, so.
Okay, thank you. I will try and go, okay, page 4, the top of page 4. It says, other plans which are not formally adopted by the city but which relate to the provision of capital facilities, and I put here, may want to place, quote, reviewed plans here, or create a third category called review.
And so that initial list on page 3 of the document itself, it does, the city adopts by reference the following plans. And so sounds like maybe we should go through those in more detail just to make sure that those are truly within that versus, not formally adopted but reviewed by the city.
Yeah, because if we don't necessarily agree with what's in their plan, we can give comment on that, but that's not gonna change.
No,
We don't have the authority to change what we disagree with.
I think that's good, and also, those plans could change as well, unbeknownst, to the city.
Yeah,
Okay.
Number, what is it? 8, the King County Solid Waste System Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Plan. I happen to be on the PIC committee for Sound Cities Association. I remember going through that, and it's not something that the cities are agreeing to. We have comments that we can make on it. We have hopefully a little bit of influence by talking about it comprehensively with our other cities to push a little bit, but we're not adopting that. We have no ability or authority to do that, to affect that change.
That one is effectively our solid waste management plan.
Right.
We are a city that, participates under that one. So we did actually have a seat at the table with the municipal facilities.
Oh, okay. That's not how I understand. I mean,
Yes,
you
so they
understand it
are,
much better
they
than
are
I
the,
will
they are
concede.
the solid waste comprehensive plan, we are one of them. They're doing that work for us, and then we are a participant city in that. So that was something that the city manager at the time wanted to have a seat at the table for, and so that was a long, a long process. And
I would imagine, yeah, I just picked King County because it was big and
yeah.
we're little old Des Moines. But, okay, thank you.
I still have a couple more. Is that all right?
Okay, we still have another section to get
And
through.
we do. Page
Nice
5, in the middle, it says that King County, the waste management, there just, I don't know if you're gonna eliminate this paragraph, waste collection and disposal. It just says that agreements between King County and the municipalities within the city. I think it probably means municipalities within the county there, correct? It's in the middle of the page, under hazardous waste collection and disposal. It's highlighted there. And it says between King County and the municipalities within the city. I think that might be a typo there. Okay. Then page 6. Kind of the same question there. There was a said question for the city, should this be in a separate section? This is about the Metropolitan Pool District. And it's similar to the other comment that I made, it's a separate district with its own electeds, and so I would just recommend including that under the plan adoption or plan review section. All right. And there was another question in regard to, this is on page 7. There was a question about, in regard to Highland College, the question about, it provides secondary education all the way up to post-grad. So I think about Central being included there, Central Washington University with Highland College, just because as a brand, even just as a branding issue, that we've got postgraduate education here. And then quickly to page 12, CF 1.6.2. Question about the undergrounding of utility lines. It's talking about require the utility lines to be relocated underground. Does that mean that there's, I'm not sure what the code, the DMMC code isn't mentioned there, so I don't know if there's a code that says our goal, kind of like that Midway sewer statement, is to underground all electricity in the city. Is that what relocated means, or is that just meaning, I'm not sure what, is that like a mandate that we're saying our goal is to relocate and underground all electricity in the city? Is that what that's saying?
We can confirm that specific code section. I know for new development, that is a requirement, but
Okay.
yeah, so we can add in some additional clarifying language on that one.
Or just eliminate the
Yeah.
for clarity. And I think I only have one more comment. Page, gosh, I'm looking for the page number in my packet. It's hard to find on the photocopies, but it's under it's another comment about relocating, PR2, it's the Green Des Moines Partnership Urban Forest Enhancement Plan. And did we want to put that under plan adoption? Have we adopted that, or we just appreciated it? It was a partnership with Forterra, and they gave us that book. And then I don't know if we adopted it or reviewed, but it might be a nice plan to put under plans that we either reviewed or adopted it.
And I think we have or will be including that also in the conservation and environment
Okay.
element, but yeah, that could be another one that's added here.
And I guess I did have one more. What is the Healthy Des Moines movement? I hadn't heard of
So
that.
there's the Healthy Des Moines element. That was a new element that was added to the.
Oh, maybe it's a typo. It said movement.
Oh.
So I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't heard about that movement.
That's when you guys run on Saturdays.
Oh, yes. Well, that's all I had. Thank you, Chair.
What page was that on? Do you know?
on page 31. The Healthy Des Moines movement. I thought, gosh, I missed something.
New branding,
We'll look for that.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions on chapter 5? Chapter 6 is gonna be pretty quick, so.
Okay, moving on to chapter 6.
Gross.
Thank you.
So, chapter 6 is probably the lightest lift of tonight. So, in 2022, in coordination with AHBL, there was a new Parks and Recreation Senior Services Master Plan that was completed, and that involved public outreach and survey and public meetings, and very similar to what we've done for the comprehensive plan and the housing action plan. And so, aside from some minor changes in the beginning here, everything from page 21 of your packet to page 32 of your packet, the bulk of this chapter is a cut and paste from the goals and policies of the Parks Recs master plan. So this is essentially bringing this up to date with that plan. That plan went through councils and committees and has public input.
Yeah,
So-
a lot of public input. That was where we did the statistically valid survey that, people did on their phones and all that stuff.
So, yep, so nothing substantive. There's no red line in here because this was just a straight replacement, so unless there's questions on this.
I am 5. No, I'm
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did have one update I was gonna kind of tell you. One of the frustrations that some communities had is RCO, these plans have been for 6 years, whereas Commerce and even, has a kind of a 10-year periodic update. So RCO has indicated that they are willing to now extend that so that there can be alignment so that cities aren't, constantly having to do park recreation and say senior service plans every 6 years when 10 years seems to be adequate for, say, Commerce. So I think the idea might be also just to as part of this, just existing scope, but just to do a kind of a real light refresh on the senior services, just to make sure that the population and some of that is aligned with the comprehensive plan, so that you can get 10 years out of that plan, as opposed to it expiring kind of midway through and saving the city money that way.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lots of work.
On to our next item is the noise code for new construction. Looks like,
Thank you, Chair. I'm gonna give, I have a building official here too. I'm gonna kind of give a brief summary of the memo. And then he can do kind of the more technical piece if there's questions. But I'll just start. So this item was raised in 2012. The city council repealed the noise code for residential construction in the city. And at the time, they had some reasoning for that, and that's detailed in here. Smaller noise impact due to quieter aircraft, improvements in state building codes, energy codes. I think a big one was the feedback from the development community that this was too expensive. And then, you know, I think it was an economic development push by the council at the time to kind of remove barriers to new construction. So that was 2012.
So just to clarify, this isn't noise code for constructing anything, this is noise code for inside the facility. Is that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, just clarification.
Yeah. So that was the rationale given in 2012 when it was adopted. Obviously, you know, with the airport and the frequency of operations we've had, you know, this has been a renewed concern about why the city doesn't have this noise code in effect for new construction on houses. I think this memo provides some good news in that since 2012, there have been advancements in the building code that is not specifically for noise, but it has improvements that makes homes more quiet. And it details that for the state building code, the commercial code, there's info in there, and then for residential codes, state building code has more stringent noise requirements, and then what Dan noted in here was also the energy code, which relates specifically to energy, but it you know, it kind of tightens the house up and reduces noise requirements for windows to be double pane and all that kind of stuff. So not specifically intended for noise, but it has that effect. So that's good news, that essentially homes are being built quieter with or without our city code. What's also noted in here is that there has been talk about let's just reinstitute our old noise code, the one from 2012. Let's just put that back in place. What this memo notes is that there's actually, based on updated building codes, there are some sections that are more stringent than our previous noise code. So we would actually, if we were putting that back in place, we'd be actually bringing some areas back down. There are areas that are more stringent in the old code, and Dan noted those, the density of the the thickness of drywall, the wall and roof sheathing, and some ducts. So there are some items where existing codes don't address what our previous code did address. And so that's where we're at right now, is we're asking the committee, would you like staff to move forward looking at those specific areas? And what we've identified specifically is that if there is the will of the committee to move forward on this, some things we'd like to look at. You know, it's not just as simple as adopting these. You know, we'd want to look at, you know, what our neighboring cities are doing, specifically airport cities, whether or not, you know, we'd want to talk to the master builders and get a sense of, you know, what's this going to do for home prices, right? Because we're already having difficult, you know, new homes are very, very expensive. So if we're adding requirements, are we now, you know, losing some of what may not even be called affordable housing anymore, right? But are we increasing the costs of houses? Also the ongoing Part 150 study, if that has any role. So there's some things we'd want to do before we'd implement this. So I'm saying it's not just like we'll bring it back next week with implementing this stuff. There is a process. So that's kind of, we just wanted to get that out there, start the discussion at the committee level, and get your thoughts, and then we can have a discussion now if you'd like.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz?
Yeah, just, I mean, one thing that kind of came to mind is the middle income housing bill. You know, that there may be things in there that we have to take a look at as well. I don't know if you've even stopped to consider some of these statewide requirements for that yet, and what it might do to ADUs or anything like that.
Are you thinking more just proximity, how close they are together, or
No, I'm
construction
thinking how-
itself would be.
how it would affect what the stated goal was, is to somehow find a way to do less expensive housing for people.
Oh, I see.
And there will be a cost impact to ramping up the noise factor, or the noise cancellation factor in these, and how that might play into the goals that were sort of mandated to set by GMA, but also these new bills that have come down from the mandates from the state
Thanks for
to allow
clarifying.
that.
I fully understand, and I agree, as a economic community development team, that's something of concern for sure. I mean, we would want to, if we do bring some sort of the sound code back, the least, we would be hopefully looking at the least financial impact that would have a great impact on sound transmission. One thing that comes to mind is just that 90-degree turn. It's simple. It doesn't really cost the developer any for the exhaust.
On the
sorry.
mechanical ductwork.
Mechanical ductwork. Instead of having a straight, air tunnel to the outside, you'd have a 90-degree. It'd have a much shorter time for sound to travel. It really wouldn't cost the contractor much in way of financial burden. So things like that might be a benefit for us, but there are things from that sound code that would definitely cost, like the 1-inch sheathing on all sides. That's a financial burden. So we just have to look at, I guess, what is your input for us? Do you want us to pursue some kind of implementation of this at a low cost? What is a balance of the two? Because the energy code, like you said, one thing to note about the energy code, we haven't seen the effect of it, the positive effect of it, because we just adopted it March 15th of this year. We have not seen a single house yet under that code come through. So that went from, just for instance, it went from 49 R value in the ceiling to 60. It went from 21 in the walls R value to 21 plus 5 R value continuous insulation on the outside. So that almost is an equivalent of an extra, added thickness of your sheathing. So that's where I think we need to take that into account, and it has inevitably caused a positive impact, but it's hard to quantify it in a decibel level. So possibly getting consultants or things like that would help. But that's.
If I can just kind of follow up, I mean, these are great goals. Reducing the noise in housing around the airport, particularly in our community, and what we can do to accomplish that is a really good goal. Most of the time I've lived in Des Moines, I lived in a house that was built in 1942. We had cardboard insulation in the walls. It didn't stop a lot of noise. There were times, and we were outside the port package line, and so we couldn't get any help with it unless we wanted to pay for it out of our own pocket. The issue, though, is paying for it, and who's going to pay for it, and how do we pay for it? And we have a lot of goals of trying to get more affordable housing built so that families, can stay in Des Moines, and we would like that. And so I think that I would like to see better analysis of how much some of these things that you see are capable of requiring, how much that's going to cost. If the energy code, as you just mentioned, is taking care of insulation inside the walls, and that, so we might not have to require 1-inch thick drywall, that's, okay, that's great. We don't have to worry about that. But there are other places where the energy code isn't going to meet that, or any of the other various codes, and I'd like to see how much it would cost on the house, and that's, you know, that's a lot of financial analysis to figure that out. Do you have the capacity to do that? And
Well, I think,
Tim?
I mean, not at the, I just think that the message here is that this is more complicated. And it's something that we can continue working on, but it's just something that's gonna take some time. So if this is a priority of the committee and the committee gives us the green light, we'll continue working on it. But it'll be, you know, kind of a process, and it would involve, you know, I mean, we would wanna reach out to master builders and ask, you know, the development community, you know, and we'll have to filter that information, obviously, but I think, you know, to the degree that, you know, they have experience in all different cities and what the market tells them and all that kind of stuff, and so that would be important input to get.
Yeah, my whole point of talking about this right now is I do think it's something worth exploring. And just letting my colleagues know that that would be my suggestion.
Mayor Buxton.
We've done too much advocacy and work on sound and things with the port here out of the city to say no at this point, so I would say move forward.
I was just gonna say, I think it'd be interesting to give it a little time and see how the effects of the new energy code might already, you know, help the sound deadening that we're looking for. And we won't see that for a while, like Dan mentioned. We haven't even issued a permit for a new single-family house under the new code yet, so.
But one thing we can do, I mean, we can start reaching out to we can look at neighboring city codes. We can look at what they have versus what we have, and through the lens of, you know, what's financially reasonable to do. So we can start on that work.
Yeah, I'd like to, I mean, for me, I'd like to see what the SDC rating for the new energy code is compared to what we're going to require. I mean, when I built my house, it was 1/4/3/8 with a malleable infill, but that might be a standard energy code thing now, so.
We could definitely look into that. The only difficult part is the SDC ratings are tested, and so if they haven't tested those assemblies, we'll have to find something that's either equivalent or somewhat equivalent, so we can give you a close estimation of what those these new walls are going to be. But typically, the SDC ratings are fire incorporated in like a fire rating, like the townhomes. Even though they don't have an SDC rating in between units, they have a fire rating, and they will include inevitably an SDC rating. Typically, like if you look up a GA file of one of those walls, they're going to have a fire rating of 1 hour, but they might also have an SDC rating of 50. Usually that's what you get in a multi-dwelling unit. So that's maybe where an equivalency might come in, but it's just hard when you have a continuous insulation on the outside. There's probably not something that's been tested yet, but certainly we can look into it.
Right, and more easily would be like the windows and
Yes.
doors and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and then,
We've already started looking into that, and we
Right.
can kind of get you an update on that one.
awesome.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I think you
Thank you.
guys have your marching orders.
Yeah, so maybe we can set another update with the committee for later in the year.
That's great. Thank you. Is there anything else from staff? All right, that was the last order of business on our agenda. If there's nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.